concluded our Thursday practice. It was a good week. Our guys worked really hard, as I probably mentioned to you. We had an adjustment to our schedule yesterday where our guys had to come in early after a late afternoon practice. I thought they did a great job of handling, the schedule and, being flexible with it. Look, they know what the situation is. They got to go on the road in the SEC, and it's never easy. Whoever the opponent is, it's a great challenge. You're going to go into a environment that is always difficult, regardless of who the opponent is, and you're going to get a great challenge. So all those things are part of it. But at the end of the day, you've got to execute at a high level in offense, defense, and special teams. And so to execute at a high level is you got to have great habits in terms of how you've prepared. And I think our guys are doing a much better job of understanding that preparation is one thing, but now you got to go play. And playing is, the ability to execute at a high level and play your best when your best is needed. So we're going to need that against a really good South Carolina team. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
Hey, Brian, you said yesterday how Whit Weeks can't be in a platoon situation. So what does that mean for Harold Perkins moving forward?
Look, they all have to play, right? I mean, so we have to be able to be creative with our defensive structure. And, Blake understands that, and that's a good thing for us, right? I mean, I think we understand that we've got some position flexibility. Witt's played some Mike linebacker. Harold's played Will. He's played some Sam. So we've got great flexibility with both those guys. So, we just feel like, it's important that the guys that are playing their best get on the field. And so I think that kind of addresses the comments that I made relative to, keeping him on the field. Of course, he's not going to play every single play, but, I think making sure that, we have the position flexibility and the utilization of not being afraid to move people around to get your best players on the field.
Hey, Coach.
Yeah.
Just curious, when Zai was out and he was injured, what were you missing in that cornerback room without him? And now that he's back, what are you gaining?
Well, certainly experience, right? I mean, he was an experienced player who was really ascending when he got hurt. He is, I would say one thing, is extremely coachable. He does what he's asked to do. He's physically stronger than the younger players. He's obviously a mature player. He's played a lot of football. And I'd say more than anything else, just had a lot more snaps and was beginning to have a lot of success. And so confidence would be the other thing that he brought to that room. But let's be careful now. I mean, he's coming off an ACL, and he's not ready to play 70 snaps. It's still going to be a situation where, he's going to have to be platooned there. But he's making great progress, and he's a guy that we feel like, with more time is only going to get better.
Coach, in regards to Harold and Greg and Whit, is there a possibility that all three of them could be on the field at the same time? Is 4-3?
Oh, sure.
Is 4-3
Absolutely.
back?
Yeah, especially teams that are playing, a much more look, and you saw it against Nicholls State, right? A run-first kind of offense where the quarterback, is central to the run game. You can see a lot more three linebacker sets. The nickel, as you know, has been, part of the defensive configuration because there have been so many, spread offenses. And now that we're seeing a lot more tight end oriented in the core, some two tight ends. You look at Tennessee, for example. Everybody talks about Tennessee's offense, and it's an outstanding offense. But, they're running a lot of, 12 personnel. If you're a nickel against them, you're in trouble. So I think you're seeing a lot more three linebacker sets. Now, I think we all know that, the coverage variations begin to shrink a little bit. So, from an offensive standpoint, that's why we love 12, with the tight ends that we have. So, long story short, yes, you're going to see a lot more three linebacker sets because of the offenses that we're seeing.
Coach, a couple of them over here.
Yes.
Defensive stats, Brian, really have not been what we thought we would be. What you'd have, sacks, pressures. How aggressive can you get defensively? And on the flip side, offensively, they seem to be bringing a lot of pressure. What's that going to force you, Joe, and us to do to get rid of the ball quicker on Saturday?
Yeah, I guess, if you look at the USC game, we had a lot of balls that were deflected. Our havoc rate was really high. And so havoc rate is pressures, blocked balls, balls on the ground. We had a lot of havoc against them. Nicholls State is not a team that you're going to get a lot of those. They're a run first, control the football. You're trying to get them off the field. So, those are a little bit misleading. This is an offense that is, again, not one that's going to sit in the pocket. The ball's going to come out. They're going to move the quarterback. It's important for us defensively to really do a great job against the run and limit the explosive plays. If you look at the Kentucky game, it was the explosive plays that really put them in a bad situation, especially early on. They blew a coverage early on. So limit explosive plays, do a great job against the run, get the quarterback down on the ground, and handle their tempo as well. I think that's very, very important to us. And then you had a question on the offensive side, I'm sorry? So, again, I think we've talked about their two ends, outstanding defensive ends. They're elite pass rushers in the SEC, but that's not new to our two tackles. They're veterans in this league. They know that it's going to be a challenge for them. And look, it doesn't come down sometimes just to the two tackles, right? It's the pressures inside, and I think Nuss has done a nice job of setting our protections and recognizing it. And I don't know. He's gotten knocked down a couple of times. I don't know if we've given up a sack, and he's going to get the ball out of his hands pretty quick.
Hey, Coach. With a guy like Dominic McKinley, who has so much physical potential, how do you manage his development this season, and where do you kind of need to take him? Is it sort of play it slow, and just how do you kind of get him to where you need him to go?
So he's had a bit of a setback with turf toe, and it's been fairly significant. He's getting scarring down on that joint, which is allowing him to do much more. He's on our demo squad right now, and he's doing a really good job. He's a young man that we have an eye towards playing this year, but we got to get him healthy first. And, there's a lot of things going on in your first year, right? He's playing college football. He's going to class. Now he's dealing with an injury for the first time. But his future is bright. But it's going to take a little bit longer to get him there. I'd say that, it's probably another week or two to get this toe where, he really can be powerful with it. I think after that, we're going to accelerate him as quickly as possible and see where that takes us.
Coach, Jacobian Guillory was obviously, a leader in that defensive tackle room, not only from a stats perspective, but, vocal leader. Saw that in fall camp and stuff. How has that position group responded this week? Has anybody kind of stepped up and kind of taken command of that room? Yeah,
I think, when you look at that group, Gio's a veteran, Paez, even though he's here for the first time. Parrish Shand is going to take some snaps in there. He's a veteran and a leader for us. Look, I think we could talk about a lot of different guys in there the most important thing is we've got a great leader in Bo Davis. And, he's helping those guys really understand how important their role is. Because we've got some young guys that are going to have to step up and play substantial and meaningful snaps for us. Whether it's Sean Washington or Ahmad Bro, Jalen Lee, there's a lot of guys that are going to have to play, and they don't have to play 30 snaps. We're talking about 12 to 15 snaps apiece, but be really effective. And a combination of all those guys, and I think Bo has done a really good job of making sure that each one of them knows they're important, and each one of their snaps has got to be really, really top-notch.
Coach, Deshaun Womack's name popped up on the injury report with Westweek and a few others. How are they sort of progressing throughout this week?
He was moving around today. We'll issue our final report. When does that come? The new SEC rules, when does that come out? 90 minutes before kickoff. You'll know 91 minutes before kickoff because he's, usually tells you guys. Probably going to get fired now. Yeah, he's fine with it. You should see his severance. It's huge. But we'll have he's probably more like a game day decision. Good?
I get one. Is that cool?
I don't know. After doing that storm chaser thing, I'm not really sure if I could take you serious about sports questions, but I'll look the other way.
I got demoted. Just with the run game, I know kind of the conversation has been, teams have been loading up the box, 7, 8 guys in there, so you want to let Nuss use his arm, make plays. How are you kind of approaching it this week in terms of, picking your spots and balancing, the pass and the run when there's opportunities?
Yeah, I've answered this question a lot, and look, let me be clear. There are times you have to run the ball with extra hats, right? The guy that's the running back gets a scholarship, and he's got to make a guy miss here, sooner or later too. So I don't want to paint the picture that we're never going to run the box with 7 guys. But if it's clear that you're going to get man coverage and they are committed to that, then there are better alternatives for us. But we're certainly going to look at trying to find a way that we can get the kind of balance where they have to respect everything that we do. And look, there are some games that you just don't need to do that because you can exploit matchups, and then there are some you got to run the ball in there regardless. And I just don't want to paint a picture that, well, we're never going to run the ball unless the numbers are exactly right. That's not true. But we are going to be tactically smart about what we do, and if we get a tactical advantage relative to those numbers, one way or the other, we're going to lean towards that. Good? All right, thank you. That was my first hurricane. I will say a nor'easter from Boston would be a lot more difficult than that hurricane. That's not normal. Oh, okay. All right.